What's up, world? Welcome back to another episode of JGI, Just Grow It, the podcast. I'm your host, Big City Gardener, and today we're continuing talking about seedlings. In this episode, I'm going to give you 5 steps to help with the hardening off process of your seedlings. What do you mean when you say harden off your seedlings? Don't worry, let's talk about it in this episode. Seedlings are like babies. All right, we keep them in a climate controlled environment and we make sure everything is ideal for them. But at some point in time, we're going to have to move those seedlings or those babies out into the real world, and we need to make sure that they are prepared. We need to make sure that they will be able to survive everything that is thrown their way. And that's what people mean when they say to harden off your seedlings. It is to prepare them for life outside. It is to transition them from the climate-controlled interior seed-starting area that we have into the outdoors and into the elements. Step 1 in the process to harden off your seedlings is to begin this process 7 to 10 days before you plan on transplanting these seedlings outdoors into their final location. During this 7 to 10 day stretch, your plants should become acclimated to their new growing conditions. If we do not give our plants enough time to acclimate, what will end up happening is that they will go through a period of transplant shock. That shock produces stress, and we all know stress leads to pest, disease, and other problems we do not want in our garden. Step 2, for the first 1 to 2 days, you're going to start by placing your seedlings outside in a shaded area. Now, we're not going to leave them out there all day. We're going to leave them out there for a few hours. But we need to make sure to bring the seedlings back inside at nighttime. And that's because our plants are not going to be ready to experience that temperature drop. You're going to repeat this process for the first 2 to 3 days. For the first day, I recommend bringing your plants outside early in the morning before the sun is high in the sky. And that's because our plants are used to growing under whatever grow lights we have. Now, we all know that the sun is the strongest grow light ever produced. We do not want to expose our plants to that extreme sun quite yet. So day 1, move them outside in the morning in a shaded spot. Day 2, move them outside a little bit later in the morning, still in the shaded spot. And day 3, we're going to move them outside towards the middle of the day, still in a shaded spot. This way, our plants are able to experience different temperatures and different light intensities. Step 3, for all of our sun-loving plants are things like peppers, tomatoes, eggplants. We're going to slowly transition them into more light. So, on day 3, we're going to move them from the shaded area to an area that receives a little bit more sunlight. But make sure to avoid middle of the day direct sun. Your plants are not ready for that yet. If the plants we're hardening off are shade-loving plants, then we're going to make sure to keep our plants in the shade during this time period. One thing we need to remember is to make sure we are not putting our seedlings outside directly in the wind. And that's because the wind will cause our seedlings to dry out faster. And during this time when we are hardening them off and introducing them to their new environment, we want to make sure that our plants receive the littlest amount of stress as possible. Step 4, on days 4 through 7, we're going to increase the amount of time that we leave our seedlings outside, and we're also going to increase their exposure to the sun. By day 7, you should have your seedlings outside in direct sun during the hottest portions of the day, because we have been slowly transitioning and building up their tolerance during this 7-day period. By day 7, they're ready to go. Also, during this 4 to 7 day period, we're going to start increasing the amount of time that we leave our plants outside at night. By day 7, your plant should be ready to experience their first full night outside. The catch here is that we need to make sure that nighttime temperatures will be above 45 degrees. So when springtime comes, if it looks like we're going to have another cold night, You want to err on the side of caution and just bring your plants back inside. There's nothing wrong with bringing your plants back inside, even if it is after that 7-day time period. What's worse, carrying your plants back inside or going outside in the morning and seeing all of your seedlings dead or badly damaged? If you ask me, I'd rather do the extra work. I'll bring them inside and make sure that I don't have to go and buy transplants because I ended up killing my seed starts. Step 5. Between day 7 to 10, you are now ready to take your seedlings outside and transplant them to their final space in the garden. A tip: make sure you transplant your seedlings in the evening and water them extremely well. Now, you transplant them in the evening because that is the coolest time of the day. I know that the morning times are also cool, but if you were to transplant your seedlings early in the morning, they would then have to experience that midday sun. And even though we've hardened the plants off and we've exposed them to the midday temperatures, whenever you transplant anything into the garden, it will experience some sort of transplant shock. So, rather than having the plant go through transplant shock and experience that high sun, we transplant our seedlings in the evening time so that they're able to rest throughout the night, throughout the morning, and then experience that hot sun a full day later. Make sure you water your transplants immediately after placing them in the garden. Another tip to help with transplant shock is to water your new transplants with a diluted kelp or seedweed mixture. These help reduce and prevent stress on our plants. If you're worried about fluctuating temperatures, you can do something like place a row cover over your crops. That way, it'll help insulate them and keep them warm at nighttime. Follow these 5 steps and your plants will be off to a great start. And your garden will thank you in the long run. That's it for this episode of Just Grow It, the podcast. I'm your host, Big City Gardener. Now, before I let you go, I need you guys to do a couple of things for me. If you enjoyed the show, please leave a review or a comment wherever you're listening to this podcast. I don't think you guys realize how much those comments and reviews really help. I have a goal of turning this into a top 10 gardening podcast, and you know I need you guys to help me do that. Number 2, if you enjoyed this show, please share it with a friend, 2, or as many people as you want. Hey, I won't get mad if you share this with 50 people. All right? Until next time, you know what I need you to do. Go to wherever you have your seed starts and begin to transition them outside. Springtime's coming. And if you haven't already started your seeds, grab your favorite seed catalog, make sure your LED lights are ready to go, clean all of your seed starting supplies, and let's get to it. It's time to just grow it. Have a great day. Before I let you go, I need you to do more than one thing. First, I need you to like, comment, subscribe to the podcast. Second, I need you to tell a friend or 2 about the show if you enjoyed it. And if you have anybody you think I need to talk to, I should interview, send the name over, put it in the comments, or send me an email, igrow@BigCityGardener. And check me out, man, on Instagram and on all social media platforms, Big City Gardener. We out. Oh, almost forgot. Just grow it.